Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the inaugural meeting of the Upward Advisory Group. We'll go ahead and get started here as sort of others trickle in. My name is Brent Vanderberg. We'll do introductions shortly here, but I just wanted to first start by saying thank you to everybody for taking part in this advisory group. This is a really important endeavor. Of course, we'll get into details, but it's really important that when we're developing these new IT projects for the state, that we have our communities engaged with us so that we can make sure that what we're developing here really meets the needs of the public. So just appreciate your attendance and taking time out of your days to be here. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I'm going to give a brief overview of the agenda. We got a couple hours together, so I just wanted to sort of give a rough overview. We'll do a welcome, provide some meeting logistics, do some introductions. That'll be relatively quick. Our introductions will be looking at about 60 seconds apiece. And then we'll move into briefing the UAG on our background for the Upward project, kind of how we got here, some of the principles of the project, things like that. Move into more defined description of what we're doing, the actual functions we're anticipating in the systems. And then we're going to collect feedback from the UAG using some pretty cool new tools. We mentioned Mentimeter, things like that, and we'll give you instructions and sort of guide through how to use these new tools. But it's just a really sort of modern and effective way to collect information from the UAG, and sort of fits the vibe of this modern data and technology arena here. At the end, we're going to provide some time for questions and answers, and we'll have a few natural breaks throughout in case there's questions. So with that, next slide, please. So if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. If you look at the bottom, you'll see all sorts of little functions. And you can, so that's one way, is to raise your hand. You can also go to the chat. If you look down there, you'll see a chat bubble, and it should say meeting group chat. If you want to ask a direct question to people running the show, reach out to Jennifer Hernandez, Craig Altair, or Jessica Bean, and we'll go over that again. Or if you ask a question to the whole group, that's fine too. I just want everybody to see the chat controls before we get started here. This is it's technically a closed meeting, but the meeting will be made public. This recording will be available on YouTube, so be careful with any sensitive information you wouldn't want to share with the interwebs, so to speak. When not speaking, please mute your microphone, general sort of telework courtesy. And then if you do have technical difficulty, run into some sort of hardship, type into chat if that's available. But if it's really bad, email upward@waterboards.ca.gov, and we're going to be monitoring that inbox just to make sure that we can help folks out if there's any issues. There's Kurt Klausmeyer. All right. From here, we're going to take a little bit of time and hear from some of the Water Board's leadership, just get some introductory remarks. The first remark is going to be from the chair of the board, Joaquin Esquivel, and then we'll hear from Deputy Director Eric Ekdahl. So with that, let's hear from the chair. This may be a little choppy. We'll see.
Hey everyone, you may be wondering, why am I awkwardly walking through the records room? And it's because I can't be there in person with you today, but I just wanted to spend a moment and just thank you. Thank you for being on this advisory council, and thank you for contributing here to a very exciting time, certainly at the State Water Board. And where I'm wandering around is actually the Water Rights Records Room. And here we have some of our oldest licenses in a vault in a paper format. And the crazy thing is, a lot of water rights data is actually here within this room, waiting to be digitized. We really think about the challenges that our state is facing. I think of the drought, certainly in these last years that we've had to face, the continuous droughts that the state has faced, and certainly in a year like this, the amount of water that has been here falling on the state all at one time. And what comes to mind is, how are we best going to manage all of this resource? How are we going to continue to stretch out our water right resources, or water resources rather, through water rights, through those droughts, but importantly also through floods. And it's really that continuum of continue to administer what is not an easy thing in a state so large and varied as ours that you are all here to contribute to. And there's a lot of time and attention that you could be up here putting your talents and your leadership toward. So the fact that you're part of the Upwards project, you're part of this exciting moment in the state when we're looking to digitize these records, but importantly, looking to be better decision makers across drought, across floods, so that our communities can continue to be resilient here in the face of what we know are continuing challenges, let alone those that are being compounded by climate extremes. So just thank you. Thanks for this moment on this video so I can awkwardly enter in, but importantly, show you all here in this records room what you'll be contributing to. So thanks, appreciate your time, and wish I can be here live with you, but there's a board meeting going on, I believe, and looking forward to, though, plenty of opportunities for us to be working together. So welcome, and I'll kick it back over to our great folks in the program.
Thank you, Virtual Chair Esquivel, who's double tasking duty as chair today. So now that we've heard from Chair Esquivel, we're going to give a moment for the Deputy Director of Water Rights, Eric Ekdahl, to provide a few introductory comments. Eric?
Hi, all. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'll be very short after Joaquin's fantastic introduction. Again, I'll just reiterate what everyone else has said. Thanks. This is a really, frankly, exciting time. And I've made this joke before, I'll make it again. It's hard sometimes to use the word water right accounting and exciting in the same sentence, but here we are. And let's take this opportunity and work collaboratively together and see what we can produce. It's a huge investment for the state of California, investment of your time as well. And so thank you, and we look forward to the process.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. So now we've heard from leadership. We're going to briefly introduce some of the staff that are here today, helping this meeting move along, just so you know the names of folks and you'll understand like who's who if we chime in and start speaking here. So with us, we have Jennifer Hernandez. Hi, Jen. Jennifer is our advisory group coordinator. So if you haven't talked to Jennifer yet, inevitably you will at some point as we sort of mature this advisory group. We also have Craig Altair. He's our advisory group technical support. Craig will be giving us a hand in case there's any issues or bobbles or anything like that. So reach out to Craig. We also have Jeff Parks. Jeff Parks is the product owner for the Upward California project. And the product owner has a really important role of deciding what the system needs to look like based on the product owner's experience. And Jeff has over 17 years with the division. So he's been here for it. And we'll hear from Jeff a little bit later on. And then myself, Brent Vanderberg, I'm the project director for Upward California. And I'll give an introduction on the next slide. Let's move to the next slide, please. So we're going to introduce ourselves, the UAG. I'll start off just to give an example, and then we're going to move in alphabetical order according to last name. So heads up, Will Anderson. And we'll just pop on your cam if it's available. We're going to shoot for 60 seconds per introduction, and we gave 4 prompts here that if you'd like to follow them, go for it, but we'll keep it to 60 seconds. Great. So my name is Brent Vanderberg. I'm a supervising geologist in the Division of Water Rights. I oversee the Upward California project, and I oversee a section of really brilliant geologists, scientists, and data experts that are helping us lift this project off the ground. Joined the advisory group because this was a strong vibe of mine to make sure that this IT project was developed in conjunction with the folks that it will affect, or at least representatives of the people around California. So really happy to be here. And what I want to gain from this experience is stuff we didn't know. I want to hear something that we didn't know about, or a perspective that can help us find a way to make sure that the system we're going to be developing meets as many user needs as possible. And for fun, we added, of course, a favorite beverage question. If we were in person, this might be useful data. Perhaps someday we will. But my favorite beverage, hands down, is tea. Used to be a coffee drinker. Now it's all about the tea. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Will Anderson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Will Anderson, representing Contra Costa Water District. In my present role, I am helping develop water rights change petitions for the Los Vaqueros Reservoir Expansion Project, and I also do the annual reporting and other reports that have to be submitted. I had formerly worked in the Division of Water Rights and mining some of this eRIMS data, and so I'd like to provide some insight into, ways that we can preferably improve that. I'll say that a really nice beverage I had down in Half Moon Bay the other day was a non-alcoholic cocktail that was basically berry and ginger elixir. And so I look forward to that at our meetings in person.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. And good to see you again. Next, let's move to Brett Baker.
Can you hear me now?
We got you, Brett.
All right. My name is Brett Baker. I am an attorney at Nomalini, Greeley, and McDaniels. We administer the Central Delta Water Agency. And I joined the advisory group because I spend a considerable portion of my life reporting water diversion and use here in the Delta. And also have a background in fisheries biology and study a little bit of ArcGIS at UC Davis when I was there for my undergraduate degree. And so, I'm excited to see that we're going to have maybe some spatial mapping and putting water rights on the map, so to speak, in California. And I hope to learn from all of you and your experiences and your perspectives. And kind of this may sound a cliche, but I'm kind of a water guy myself. That's kind of my favorite drink, good clean water.
Good answer. Good answer. Good to see you, Mr. Baker. Thank you. All right. Now let's move to Steve Blumenshine.
Hi, thanks, Brent. I'm Steve Blumenshine. I'm the Executive Director of CSU Water. CSU stands for California State University System, and water is an acronym, Water Advocacy Towards Education and Research. And I think for a little bit of background, I can combine the next two bullet points. So in this position, I foster our networks within the CSU system from administrators down to students, and also grow our external network of stakeholders and partners. And so that's something I'd like to get out of this group, is that expanded network and opportunities and what's happening on the front lines with water and water management to our internal group, and how we can collaborate our internal groups and external groups to improve some of the water situations we have here in California. And I like a nice coffee. I just got a nice small press coffee right here, and that's going to do the trick for the meeting, I think.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Blumenshine. Thank you. Next up, we have Ivy Britton.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Ivy Britton. I'm Legislative Affairs Director for the Northern California Water Association, or NCWA. Our members represent the Sacramento Valley, and many of which hold water rights. And so why we joined the advisory group, we were actively involved in advocating for this important funding for this program. And what we would like from this experience is better data and, digitized material that staff can access and members can access to improve the process. And you can never go wrong with the Shirley Temple.
Awesome. Thank you, Ivy. Thank you. Next on the list, we have Tim Bush. We have Tim with us today. Going once, going twice. We'll move on. Tim, if you join, I'll circle back in a little bit here. Steve Chidester. Steve Chidester, are you on? Perhaps not. Okay, once again, we'll circle back. Juliet Christian Smith. I believe Juliet said she wasn't going to make it. So we got 3 in a row, I think. Okay. Jessica Diaz. There we go.
Hi, good afternoon. Glad to break this streak. My name is Jessica. I'm a water attorney. I sit in Santa Barbara. I'm with a firm called Brownstein Hyatt Farber Schreck. I joined the group because since joining the firm, I became the person in the office who handled the annual water rights reporting for a kind of diverse range of our clients, large ag landowners, tiny landowners, different size public water suppliers. And so I joined because I'm interested in kind of a nerdy way in improving that user experience. And I'm hoping to contribute some of the experiences I've had from water rights reporters, and also really looking forward to learning others' diverse perspectives on the subject. I know it's sacrilege for a California water attorney, but I was recently in New York City, so I'm gonna say my current favorite beverage is New York tap water.
Really interesting. Cool. Right on. Thank you, Jessica. Next, let's move to Chelsea Haynes.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Chelsea Haynes, the Regulatory Relations Manager for the Association of California Water Agencies, ACWA. ACWA represents 470 public water agencies throughout California that deliver about 90% of the water for domestic, agricultural, and industrial uses. So many of our members, or all of our members, hold water rights in some way or through someone, another member. The administration of water rights is really important for us, and so I'm very excited to hear some of the diverse perspectives and solutions, and where there's consensus around improving administration and digitizing. So I look forward to this conversation. And I'm really into hot yoga, so electrolytes are my drink of choice right now, especially in the summer.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Next, let's move on to Paul Hamai.
Hi, this is Paul Hamai. I'm an engineer with NRCE, which stands for Natural Resources Consulting Engineers. We're based out of Oakland. Many of our clients are Native American tribes, and we work on a lot of water rights issues. We work for several tribes in California. And I was initially alerted to this group by a tribe. We're working with them on sort of reviewing. They're in a groundwater basin that's being managed under the State Groundwater Management Act, and was alerted to this group, and was told that it would probably be a good idea for me to look into it. I think what I hope to gain is again, to provide better access to data for our clients. But I'm also hoping to make sure that Native interests are represented. A lot of times tribes don't have actual paper water rights or quantified water rights, but they do have water rights nonetheless under federal law, and hoping that that can be incorporated in future efforts by the state. I'm a coffee drinker myself, but I'm becoming more tea curious. So let's leave it at that.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Thank you. Next, let's move on to Stephen Hagan.
Yeah, Steve Haugen here. I'm with Kings River Water Association, serving as the water master. Administer 6 water right licenses for the Kings River service area. Between those, we deliver on average about 1.7 million acre feet. That's water is put out there to 28 member units. Those are irrigation districts, water districts, mutual water companies. I'm an engineer by training, and my hope here is to maybe streamline the reporting process and be able to better administer our licenses and the challenges that we have to our licenses. And then from there, favorite beverage, probably Diet Coke. So anyways, that's it.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Steve. Thanks. Next up, we have Kurt Klausmeyer.
Hi there, Kirk Bosmeyer with the Nature Conservancy. I'm the Director of Data Science for our California chapter. And I have been on both sides of both water right reporting for some of our water rights that we hold from associated with our land holdings. I also am an avid consumer of all things data, especially water data, and really interested in improving data quality and consistency for the water rights data set as it is now, and then better tools to access the data. So that's where I'm coming from. We're particularly interested in understanding who has water rights, and then how can we work with those water rights holders to improve outcomes for native fish and improve ecological flows in our rivers and streams. I just a bit of a apology here. I am currently in a coffee shop, so that's my favorite drink is a coffee shop. But up at the North Coast Point Arena right now, we're doing an annual kelp survey using drones, and so I'm a drone pilot. We're flying the drones, and we have to get out at certain windows of tide and light conditions. So I'm going to have to pop off a little bit early, and we'll make it till 4:30. But I'm very excited to join this call, and it's a good break from the drone flights to get hear a little bit more about water rights. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Kirk. What you're doing sounds beautiful and interesting. That's that's a good job. All right. Next, let's move to Glenn Lowe.
Hi, everyone. Glenn Lowe, Genome. We're an environmental data nonprofit that creates water decision support tools. I joined the advisory group because I wanted to help provide a perspective from the data user. I've been fortunate to work with river authorities, GSAs, cities, counties, state agencies, corporations, the Army Corps on water data and tools. I've also been on the Water Data Advisory Council for both California and Texas. I'd like to get from the experience just to learn from others, just a terrific group on this call. And importantly, to ensure that data is usable, useful, and used, because making data available isn't sufficient. Really, we need to make sure it leads to improved outcomes. My favorite beverage is green tea.
Thanks, Mr. Lowe. Good to see you. Next, let's head to Kristen McKillop.
Hi, everybody. This is Kristen. I am the Regulatory Compliance Manager for South Feather Water and Power, and I am currently at a dam safety conference, kind of huddling in the corner, so I apologize for no video. I oversee components of our water division, including our urban water management plan and all of our water supply and assessment and our annual water rights reporting. And the reason that I wanted to join this group is because we not only have consumptive rights, but we have rights for hydropower. We are exclusively a surface water user. And I just think it would be interesting to have the opportunity to provide input from an end user, as well as what's already been spoken to with regard to better access to data and extraction of compiled data. And I have to have coffee and water every day.
Thank you, Kristen, and appreciate your diligence, double tasking here. Next up, we have Tara Moran.
Hi, everyone. Tara Moran with the California Water Data Consortium. We're a nonprofit organization that was formed to support the state's implementation of the Open and Transparent Water Data Act. And why did I join the advisory group? The consortium is working with the state board to develop some recommendations for the development of telemetered monitoring networks to support both the reporting of water rights information, but really to understand watersheds and what's going on there more broadly. And so interested in learning from all of you on how, and learning from all of you on your experiences and how we might integrate some of your knowledge into those recommendations. So really looking forward to these conversations. Favorite beverage, yes. I am known to always have at least 3 drinks going at once. Right now I have water, ginger, and green tea going. So yes.
Appreciate it, Tara. So it's variety. You keep the variety.
Correct. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Next up, and forgive me if I mess up names, John Nagel.
Yes, John Nagel. I serve on quite a few boards, but I'm currently board chair of the Sonoma Resource Conservation District. Also, I'm on the Santa Rosa Plains Groundwater Sustainability Agency. I'm also serve on Point Blue Conservation Science Policy Board. But I think what got me pulled into this was my work with Russian River Water Forum. Russian River Water Forum is working on two basin solutions between the Eel River and the Russian River, and got pulled into that by my work on the Russian River Water Sharing Agreement, which was a collaborative effort during the very dry year we had in 2022, where senior water right holders were sharing water with junior water right holders in a collaborative effort. So why am I here? Good governance. That's what it's all about, right? And having worked in the wine industry for 25 years, I would be remiss to not say that my favorite beverage is a really nice, hearty, fruity Zinfandel. So, but you know, the rest of the day it's probably water. So, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Next up, we have Patty Piore Lozano.
Hi, thank you. Let's see here. My name is Patty Piore. I am. Why did I join the advisory group? Well, most of all of you, I do know already. I am an executive director for the Kern Groundwater Authority in the Kern Subbasin. I'm also the president of the Kern County Farm Bureau, first female in over 106 years. So I look at things through a farmer's lens in most of the things that I do, which I think is helpful in that respect. And so I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. I am part of the advisory committee with Tara Moran regarding her California Water Data Consortium, and that's really been very helpful in my Sigma world. Since we just developed a data management system here for the Kern Subbasin in pertaining to Sigma. So I'm looking also from that perspective on how could I connect the dots easily. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And I guess for my best favorite drink, I'm going to be the third person that says I love green tea. So you got three of us that like green tea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Patty. Green tea is really catching on. I'm going to have to give it a shot here.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Next up on the list, we have Jack Rice.
Good afternoon, Jack Rice. I run some cattle and have a small farm in Humboldt County. It's hay, not the other thing we're famous for up there. I've worked on water issues and water rights reporting for a really long time, going back to SB 88, helping farmers and ranchers just learn more about it. And through that, we spent a lot of time on ERIMs, and we now work with ranchers across California with the Cattlemen's Foundation, trying to help them interact with the regulatory requirements. And a lot of our work is on water rights reporting and understanding the water rights system. So I think I just like to learn from everyone here, learn where it's going, which will help us in that work, and also contribute where we can. Definitely coffee.
Great. Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Next, we have Eric Ringelberg.
Hi, yeah, we're pretty similar to actually several of the folks have been talking here earlier. I'm the Regional Vice President of the Freshwater Trust, and we're engaged in providing cleaner and more water for native fisheries and associated groundwater dependent ecosystems. In California, our focus is really fisheries, tribes, underserved and disadvantaged communities, and looking at the nexus between surface water and groundwater. So that puts us in a couple different areas. We developed under Senate Bill 88 a program to disaggregate water rights and consumptive water uses. So we're able to look at licenses and statements and remote sensing data to be able to show where the relative source of water is and where the water demand is during each day essentially during the growing season. And then we've implemented the Northern Delta Groundwater Sustainability Agency in order to help implement some of those technological solutions. So we have a regional scale surface and groundwater monitoring network that we've established, and we'll be expanding that to take advantage of some new data coming in from recycled tertiary treated wastewater project that the regional SAN, the local utility in the Sacramento area, is implementing. And I think a couple things. Let's see. I wanted to join the advisory group to see the trajectory, both as a user and a data provider to eRIMS. We're excited to see where it's headed and how we might be able to support that with the group folks on this call. And then my favorite beverage. Well, I think I have to say it would have to be espresso, but close up would be a Delta sourced Petite Syrah.
Love it. It's very specific. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. We're going to slightly deviate from the alphabetized approach here. Pat New, I believe, joined us. Pat, are you on?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, I'm Pat. I'm with PG&E's Hydropower and Water Management Group. I'm an engineer in the group responsible for water right reporting and helping PG&E, deliver power to most of California and all the hydropower projects associated with that. So PG&E decided it had an interest in joining this advisory group because it holds about 230 water rights and is responsible for reporting on those annually. That with that comes copious amounts of data and time spent organizing that and getting it submitted. So we have a bit of a stake in the next system that will be responsible for collecting that data and getting it reported to the Division of Water Rights. What we hope to gain from this is really just being a part of the group to provide useful information and feedback to Division so that this new system will really be accommodating to all the different water users who need it. So both as water users and as, being able to do research and gather data for all intents and purposes. Lastly, favorite beverage. I would say on the record, my favorite beverage is coconut water, but off the record, I would have to go with an ice cold Coors Light. So,
gotcha. Thanks, Pat. Thank you. Thank you. We also, I believe I saw Tim Bush join. Tim Bush, are you on?
Yes. Hello. I'm Tim Bush. I have my background is I have two jobs. My day-to-day job, I'm the principal utilities engineer for the city of Woodland. We have a drinking water utility, wastewater treatment plant. We have a recycled water utility. We're primarily surface water, but we do have some groundwater, and we also do aquifer storage and recovery. We have 3 of those wells. And then my other job, I'm the general manager of the Woodland Davis Clean Water Agency. For them, we are a surface water provider to the cities of Woodland Davis and UC Davis. We hold 2 water rights. We have a Sac River settlement contract water right, and then we also have a very junior state water board water right as our primary water right. So I've been working on water right reporting directly for more than 10 years, indirectly close to 15 or 16 years now, I think. So pretty well engaged in that whole process and have been for some time with different water rights. Through Woodland Davis, we've actually been doing pretty much annual water transfers as well as we've been buying water as well as using our own water rights. Reason why I wanted to be on this board is we already do a lot of water reporting. My interest is primarily in efficiency and to find a way to combine some of it together if we can. But also just interested in the topic overall because I've been working in this area for quite a long time. For my favorite beverage, I'm going to go with coffee. I drink a lot of coffee.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Next up, we have Beth Salmoni.
Hi, everybody. It's Salamone, just to make that easier right off the bat. Thanks for calling me Beth. I'm also known as Elizabeth, but please call me Beth. So I work in the Mendocino County Russian River watershed, and Lake Mendocino is our reservoir, which is where Governor Newsom declared drought from the bottom of our reservoir the last time around in 2021. So in addition to being the general manager of a wholesale water district here in the Ukiah Valley, I'm also on our groundwater sustainability agency. I'm the chair of the technical advisory committee. I am on the Region 1 Aqua board and will be and slated to be on the Aqua board itself for the statewide board next year. So I work with Chelsea a lot. Hi, Chelsea. I also work with John Nagel quite a bit. We were on the voluntary water sharing program together, in the water forum together, working on some long-term and short-term water resiliency issues here, and also worked with Eric Echtel on that. So it's nice to see some familiar faces. Water use data is incredibly vital for both the short and the long-term water reliability and decision-making in particularly the Upper Russian, but the entire Russian River. And we don't have good data. So in addition to wanting better data, I represent one water right that the district holds, but our constituents, our customers, they hold many other water rights. And so one of the issues that I talk about a lot when I'm interviewed for these type of things is how we might have one point of diversion, one data logging meter that has, like, you know, 2, 3, 4, 8 water rights running through it. And how do we parse out that in the reporting? I see a lot of heads nodding. Good. I was in the original, like the startup of the Upward program. So like the stakeholder group, and have been meeting periodically with staff on that, on the telemetry issues. So I've been working with Tara a bit on that. And most recently, the state was looking at SB 88 compliance, and I was interviewed. And all of those things sort of cross, right? Because we're talking about management of the data, et cetera. So I'm excited to be here to provide like a rural perspective that is actually happening a lot over the state. But I like to talk about this kind of stuff, as do all of you. So in the afternoon, I would have a bottle of water if we were my own bottle that I had refilled, not a plastic water bottle, my own refillable water bottle at a meeting.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. So next on the list, we have Bram Surku.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm a senior hydrologist with United Water Conservation District. We're in Oxnard in Southern California. So we have multiple water rights to divert from the Santa Clara River here for underground storage, surface storage, power use, multiple points of diversion. So the current ERM system doesn't always quite work out for us. It probably doesn't get the state board what they really want to know from us, we feel. And, you know, there's probably some better system out there that we can work together. So selfishly, I hope we can get a better system that makes it easier on us, but hopefully we can work together to, you know, create a better product that meets all of our needs. And I'd say I'd go for a Belgian beer. That's where I'm from, but I want to keep a clear head today. So let's just stick with coffee.
Thank you, Bram. And how shall we pronounce your last name? So I know I didn't do a good job.
Oh, that's fine. Surku is what I say.
Surku. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next up, Christopher Toll.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christopher Toll. I'm the Chief Data Officer for the California Data Collaborative. We are a nonprofit coalition of water supply agencies throughout the state. And let's see, why did I join the advisory group? One of our members brought it to our attention and suggested that I might be a good fit. I am a data scientist by training, been working with sort of at this intersection of water and data for about 8 years now, though not specifically with water rights data. So a lot of experience, you know, building data pipelines, building software and decision support tools for water agencies, creating open data standards for data. So really just here, you know, in case, you know, hoping that I can be helpful, provide a useful perspective. Really interested to learn more about water rights data and how it can connect with a lot of the other water data sources used across the state, including many other data sources that are, you know, required reporting. And yeah, I really sort of alternate coffee, tea, sparkling water. I'm always sipping on something while I'm on a call. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. 2 more to go. Next up is Mark Van Camp.
Hi, my name is Mark Van Camp. I'm with MBK Engineers. My
original experience was with the U.S. Geological Survey, understanding the basics of flow measurement. Since joining MBK in 1984, we've been providing assistance to water right holders throughout the state of all sizes, from stock ponds up to large districts and large reservoirs. We also represent folks in the Klamath Basin and the Truckee River Basin. Why did I want to join the advisory group? Well, I was requested to from others in MBK, but I think mostly to hopefully provide some help, some improvements. As these improvements go forward, I think we got to recognize the various sizes of water rights that we're dealing with. And probably most importantly is to understand the changes that we're going to make so I can help serve our clients, from cattle to irrigation to M&I users. What would I like to see from the experience? I'd really like to see that we recognize we need a balance between what we're all going to interpret as being effective management of the water rights system, relative that balance with the added administrative costs that we will unlikely see both on the state and on the water users. My favorite beverage during business hours is probably coffee, and after hours is hazy IPAs.
Thank you, Mr. Van Camp. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Last but not least, we have Gregory Williams.
Hey, thanks for hi everyone. Greg Williams, Deputy Operations Officer for Valley Water. Valley Water is a water utility and wholesaler for Santa Clara County, so about 2 million people countywide. In terms of water rights and why I'm here, Valley Water has around 21 water rights that provide a little over 200,000 acre feet for us. The water rights are all appropriative rights, and that's all managed out of my division. Since this is being recorded, my favorite beverage is sparkling water.
Great answer. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you. So looking at my list and looking at the roster here on the screen, I think we got everybody. Is there anybody that I've missed? All right. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk briefly about the charter, and then we'll start getting into the actual project here. So the Upward Advisory Group, just a few responsibilities. They're outlined in the charter. We're going to make this as easy as possible on all of you. No random homework assignments. First of all, there's a meeting every 6 months. This is the first. We'll meet again in 6 months. The goal of this is for all of you to provide feedback to us. And that's really important because of the unique perspectives we just heard about, not just in backgrounds and beverages, but unique perspectives throughout California. We'll talk a little bit more in future slides about this, but that's really the goal. Collect feedback from future perspectives, or collect feedback from unique perspectives. And lastly, this is a voluntary organization. If you feel like this isn't for you or you want to leave the UAG at any time, that's absolutely fine. Just let myself or Jennifer Hernandez know. And we do have a wait list that's sort of in the background so we can populate seats if they vacate, just letting you all know it's voluntary. So with that, let's head to the next slide and talk about the UAG as a sort of a concept. So the goal of the UAG, and these icons represent sort of stepwise how we're thinking about this, is as we build stuff on the left, IT project stuff to help with the delivery of water rights information to the state board, we want to have the unique perspectives gathered here so that we can hear you, get the feedback, and use that feedback to ensure that the IT project meets as many needs as possible. So I know we've stated this a few times, but this is a relatively rare group where the state convenes people who will be affected by data systems to collect feedback in this way, specifically around water. So from what I understand in my years with the state, this is somewhat of a novel endeavor here, and I think it's the right thing to do. I think when we're working with public money and we need to do something for the people should be present, and you all are representatives of the various populations throughout California that are affected by or are part of the water rights administration system. So thank you. That's the purpose of this advisory group. The way that we'll sort of work moving forward is at the beginning of our UAG meetings, we'll have the state deliver where we are in the project. We'll go into timelines later in this presentation to set expectations, but it'll basically be a demonstration to the UAG from the state, and then we'll collect feedback from the UAG participants in the latter part of the meeting, just moving forward in general. That's how we'll do this. And with that, I believe we're ready to start talking about the players that are involved with helping us develop this IT project. So next slide, please. So just briefly, so you have a feel for the organizational aspects of this, we have some state workers that are ca.gov. We have some private consultants that are working with us. We're just going to go through and name them so that you have name recognition as we move on through the Upward Advisory Group meetings and subsequent meetings. So to the left of this graphic, you'll see Deputy Director Eric Ekdahl, who we heard from earlier, and myself, the supervisor of the data governance section. This is a new section. It's relatively novel for the water boards. And basically our mandate is ensure this system is, it not only works for people, but actually makes it to the starting line, right? Gets developed. So we're the heavy lifters from the Division of Water Rights. And also to make sure that the data that the new system collects are properly governed into perpetuity. So we've hired full-time staff for both the project development aspect of this, as well as the long-term data governance of the new system. And those staff are represented on the right here. Craig Altair, who's with us today, is our technical support. Jeff Parks, who is our product owner, and we'll be hearing from Jeff in a little bit here. We have Andrew Hill, Jacob Pasner, they're our data experts. Tyler G is our logistics expert, and we have Stephen Sevron, who's in charge of our digitization, and we'll talk about the 7 million paper records in a second. In the middle, we have a telemetry research unit. This is a unit that is responsible for helping develop an institutional knowledge base for the Division of Water Rights in the matters of telemetric reporting specifically. Now, this is critical. After the passage of Senate Bill 88, we realized we had a pretty severe technology deficit. And the way that we help climb out of that deficit is by putting staff members in the role to hold that knowledge that is continuously changing as technology evolves, to make sure that the water board keeps that knowledge in-house. So that's the telemetry research unit. On the left, we have our data management unit led by Sanjeet Singh, and you can see Jason Baker, Jennifer Hernandez present here today, as well as Marina Velasquez. And this is our current front of house reporting unit. So some of you who report to us may recognize Sanjeet's name. He is the one who has been collecting data under the ERIMS RMS system, the supervisor of that unit. So that's where that's the layout for the Division of Water Rights. Now, we are 250 staff strong. This is one section in our division, but it's the section that will be most involved with the Upward project. So with that, let's look at our counterparts in our Information Technology division. We can't do these major IT projects without help from an IT division, and it has been a pleasure to work with our IT division on this project. We've effectively created a two-part whole to this project, where the staff that you saw on the last slide represent the business of water rights, represent the actual administration of the water rights, and then this group here, led by our CIO, Kathy Owen, is the IT division group that understands the back-end programming, plumbing, architectures, and things that are far outside of our wheelhouse in the Division of Water Rights. So the group that we work with every single day, sometimes all day, most days all day, is led by Kieran Kesaretti, our technical director. Kieran is awesome. She's going to be in future UAG meetings, and she oversees a group of just incredible data experts. We have Jonelle Medina, Misha Matsunami, Alex Talpasano, and John Kuroda. So with the special projects branch, and then the ones we saw on the right-hand side of the last org chart, that is our everyday, all day, 5 days a week group that's helping lift this project off the ground. So that's the water board staff. And in the IT division, similar to water rights, there's many more than these here. It's a large division. So let's head to the next slide. These IT projects, I'm not going to surprise anybody by saying California has a somewhat spotted track record with major IT projects. This makes oversight critical. So we have two wonderful folks from the California Department of Technology. You can think of this as the statewide IT division that have extensive experience in these projects and can help us navigate the path avoid risks, give us advice, all the things that we would want from some oversight from folks that have done this before. And we have Renee Evans and Eric Aguilar, who are in a lot of our meetings. They attend most of our meetings just to keep watch and help us out. They're often giving advice in the background, helping us keep everything in a row to ensure success. Next slide. And of course, someone has to build this thing. It's not going to be the state workers that build it. We contracted with Gartner and Deloitte. So these are the two primary consultants that will be advising us and developing the actual software. So Gartner, pretty well recognized name, lots of experience in the realm of developing IT projects, both public and private sector. Gartner sits as our advisor and just basically a way to get info from the private sector and other areas that the state may be siloed from, and make sure that the software we're developing, the processes that we're working with, are up to modern standards. There's nothing worse than building something old, right? So Gartner helps us stay current, modern. Gartner also helps us lift some of the more complex or heavier documentation aspects of this whole IT project. There's a lot of paperwork, so they can help us and do help us navigate that. Deloitte, another well-recognized name in the IT industry. They are the system integrator. The cool kids refer to these companies as SIs. And what that is effectively the software developers, with one caveat. Next slide. To make sure we had the best platform possible using the most modern tools available, Deloitte subcontracted to Esri and Salesforce, two of the predominant names in IT development. Esri handles geospatial information system aspects of this build, and then Salesforce handles a lot of the rest of the user interface and aspects of the build. Salesforce is pretty renowned for having a lot of IT systems out there and a lot of experience in this arena. So with Deloitte subcontracting with these two companies, we're confident that we have the right folks in the building to build our new data system. Next slide, please. Can't have enough independent validation and verification in a project like this. We have even more oversight. IV&V. So Public Consulting Group is unrelated to the state, independent contractor, also attends most of our meetings, and they're providing a completely independent view on the project in the event that Gartner, CDT, and the water boards are not seeing something. So we're adding extra risk mitigation by ensuring that we have independent verification and validation present with us as we develop this new data system. Next slide. And then there's us, the Upward Advisory Group. So a little bit of detail. We mentioned this sort of in the charter, but I just want to cover it briefly. We saw during our introductions, we have a very diverse group of individuals representing a number of different aspects of California water rights and water data. And the important part is that we have varied water right interests present. So a lot of us have been sort of convened and selected for this group because of that variability. Also, we wanted to make sure that we were geographically dispersed in this group. We don't want one single watershed to particularly dominate with 5 members and another watershed not be represented. Unfortunately, we cannot put all watersheds in California in one meeting. It's just too big. So we did reach the goal of geographically dispersed UAG, though. And then we want to also make sure and give a nod to water data users. Of course, the board's mandate is to administer the water rights system for the state, but we also need to make sure that the users of water rights data are also heard and accounted for as we develop this system. So that's a just sort of general overview of the UAG. Now we're going to move over and transition a little bit. We're going to start talking about the needs and challenges that we face that led to this system. This is just historical background for everybody. We'll cover this once, and then we'll move on to the actual project details. So with that, let's move to actually, are there any questions? Is there anything brewing or stewing in your minds right now you want to bring up or comment on? Just given an opportunity. Okay, looks like Will Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Brent, for the introduction and the overview here. One burning question that I have right now is how far along are we? We've got the consultant on board and all the contracting and developers and everything like that. Kind of what's the status?
Yeah, we actually have a slide for that. We have a couple, and we're going to go through our timelines and we're going to show sort of where we are in the project. And one of the final slides we're going to show is going to be way too technical, but for those that are in the IT arena, it's going to show you exactly where we are. So that'll be our closing slide, Will. Yeah. Great. Thank you. All right. No other digital hands raised. Let's go ahead and move on to the next slide.
So I'm going to take it over from here. As Brent said, my name is Jeff Parks. If I haven't met you before, I probably recognize your agency. I've worn a lot of hats in the division over the years. Brent mentioned 17 years, but we've worked together for a while. It's already past 18 and rounded on 19. Why do we need to modernize? So I heard that a lot of you have interacted with our current system, either through annual reporting or through searching data in eRIMS. So I think this picture adequately demonstrates where we're at. We've got a system that can't keep up with what we need to do, and frankly isn't meant to keep up with what we need to do. It was never really built for it. Next slide, please. One way that demonstrates, and I know some of you that were in earlier stakeholder meetings may have seen this before, but I think it's good to reiterate, kind of how we got here, and why the data is the way it is, the shape it's in right now. Looking at how we've evolved. So our first database, moving from completely paper records, was in the early 90s, 1994 in RIMS. But our division makeup was interesting. With less than 100 staff, most of what we did was what you think of core water rights, permitting and licensing, enforcement, with some other stuff. Bay Delta was there then. Next slide. By the early 2000s, when we switched to our eRIMS database, we'd grown a little bit. We'd hit over 100 staff, but we also started to see a shift in work. Our FERC licensing work was growing. A lot of our other division mandates that started coming in through legislature were trickling in. This is also, if some of you remember, when fees started, and annual reporting kind of took on a new life. Next slide. The big difference, though, is looking at how much we've changed between the early 2000s to today. The division has doubled. We're at 250 staff now, but just what we do has changed. That core water rights stuff, it isn't even the majority of what we do anymore. Bay Delta has grown significantly, but our policy work, our supply demand assessments, groundwater related work, so many other things have been added onto the division over the years, which again points to why our current data system hasn't caught up. What we fundamentally do has changed quickly. Next slide, please. The biggest challenge is that our current data system, eRIMS, was a custom build that frankly is a black box from an IT perspective. And that has made being flexible and expanding really tough, and has created a duct taped monster where we add new programs to try to keep up with new legislation and new programs. But it just, if anyone's experienced this type of quick fixes, it gets really clunky after a while. And I'm sure a lot of you see that in our data. And the geospatial aspect of our data has not kept up either. Every time we add a new system, it kind of lives in its own bucket, and those buckets aren't talking to each other. Next slide, please. I don't want to highlight Russian River too much, but part of why I was involved in this project is because the last few years before this project started was working on drought curtailment work related to Russian River. And that's really where we got to see some of the fun of our data, and just how bad some of it can be, both on what we maintain and also on what's been reported to us. And we QA QC that data, but we do it again in a silo where staff in one part of the division cleaning up data can't show that together, or it's very hard to show that in a centralized place. And so we end up with this pattern of having to redo effort that someone maybe, you know, literally in the cube next to us may be working on that we're not aware of. And of course the paper records, and you know, it's for as modern a time as we live in, we still have to refer to paper records for the majority of where the core of our water rights data lives. ERIMS, I didn't mention this earlier, but ERIMS was built, a big part of why ERIMS was built was for those new fees that came in the early 2000s. And so it was meant to be a partially and largely a billing tracking system. And the water rights data kind of just supported that. So it was never meant to be a fundamentally data or water rights data tracking system for what we need it for now. So a lot of our what we'd like to have in ERIMS still lives only in paper, which is why digitization is such a big piece of this, because once it's digital, there's a lot more things we can do with it. And I already mentioned, you know, we get new mandates, and with the climate that we live in now, things change so fast. We need a system that can keep up with that. Next slide, please. And I'm going to hand it back to Brent to talk about some of the visioning for the Upward project as a whole.
Great, thank you, Jeff. So Jeff talked about the challenges, and I think a lot of people here are familiar with these challenges. Appreciate your commentary, Kirk. Yeah, duct tape monster is a good way to put it. What I want to talk about now is getting out of this technology deficit, and what are some of the sort of higher level visions that we're looking at, and then we'll drive into the goals and start to head towards that timeline that I was talking about with Will earlier. So at the heart of all of this, upper left-hand corner, enhance water board's reporting and decision-making capabilities. And this is really critical. Our job is to administer the water rights priority system for the state. And with our duct tape monster, it's just becoming less and less feasible as our needs change and the institution grows and demand on the institution changes. We focus on a future where data-driven decision-making is at the core of the new Upward project. So starting with sort of the end in mind from the beginning of looking at how to do data-driven decision-making and then backing that into software requirements. So the next really important aspect is improving our partners' ability to utilize data and to make data-driven decisions. It's not just the board that needs to make decisions on water rights data that we collect, but water districts, GSAs, many different institutions rely on the information that we collect to make their own local level decisions. So it's really important that we ensure that the need of this system is bidirectional. It's not just the state, but it's the other partners that are out there in water management. The third one on the list on the left is improve the water board's customer experience. I'm frustrated by it sometimes trying to dig around on our website for stuff. This is our opportunity to really clean up how our customer service and customer experience will be moving forward. And we're taking that opportunity as well as developing the IT system. So some benefits of a more thought out future system include increased operational efficiency. This is critical in government. Operational efficiency equates to the amount of digital services or product we can provide back to the public. If we are inefficient, then we're leaving productivity on the table. And so we're really looking at empowering staff operational efficiency, taking something that would have maybe taken a staff a few days to do and either automate it outright or maybe only make it take a couple minutes. So in the realms of IT, we call this business process improvement. And that's exactly what this does, is by improving our business processes, we become more efficient as an institution. So the next one, enhance compliance and enforcement. Of course, sometimes things go wrong and the water boards need to enforce or check compliance and just validate that things are in order. New systems provide new opportunities for both aspects, compliance and enforcement. And sort of at the end of this, open and transparent data is critical, but also defensibility of board decisions is critical. So with improved data quality comes improved defensibility of our decisions. And that's how we can help enhance compliance and enforcement. And sort of lastly there for my cybersecurity friends, we see in the news all the time. There are systems getting taken over and all this. We're taking this opportunity to build a robust new platform that can maintain that defensibility and cybersecurity aspect. And one of the things that helps us with this is, we mentioned the Salesforce platform. That platform updates itself. It's one of the great selling features of the Salesforce platform. The security, all that stuff, most of that stuff is handled by Salesforce behind the scenes, ensuring that we do stay up to speed with a lot of this security stuff, and also keeping the system up to date over time. So that's the high level vision. Let's move down in detail a little bit and get a little more granular. The macro goals, so those were our objectives, our goals. There's more than this, but these are the three huge ones. One, as Jeff Parks mentioned, replace eRIM's RMS and the associated ecosystem of duct tape and zip tie monsters that we have been using to keep our business operating here. That second one's near and dear to myself and many of us. Digitize the legacy paper documents. This is absolutely unfair that we have so much water rights information stored on paper. It is not equitable at all if you're in Southern California to need to drive to Sacramento to get this information. So at the heart of this project, there's the IT system as well as a major paper digitization process. And in future UAG meetings, we'll dive into more details on the paper digitization piece. And that last piece there, I mentioned it before with the water rights org chart. Data governance, building the IT system is only part of this. We have to make sure that the data are taken care of into the future. And this has all sorts of things to do with data catalogs and technologies that we're not going to get to during this meeting, but I just wanted to flag that as a really critical part of this project, is making sure that we take care of our data moving forward. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to touch on this one because to me, this is pretty profound. This timeline is very rapid. 20 months from understanding that funds were acquired in July 2021 to actually being in a project kickoff March 2023. Now, it seems like that might be a long time, but in government IT, that is actually very, very fast. And I'm just going to real quickly go through these bullets. Within months of receiving funding, we had contracted with Gartner Consulting, our project management consultant, to help us with the rest of these. And that's part of why this was able to go so fast. We hired Gartner quickly and they began to help us swiftly. By fall and winter of that same year, we had the solicitation and project requirements developed, and we're staffing up the org charts that I showed earlier. So those were some very busy months, and that's probably why I forgot that Jeff's actually approaching 19 years. And then December of that same year, we actually put out a public solicitation for contractors to come do what's called a proof of concept. And you'll see that in February 22. What a proof of concept is we have an open call for software developers who want to approach and participate in a non-funded, so free, proof of concept, where the software developers build miniature versions of the system that we want, just so we can test their technical understanding, their business acumen, and how we feel about working with them. Look at how well they understood the questions and requirements that we gave them. And from there, we were able to select a final system implementer, which was Deloitte that I mentioned earlier. So in February 23 this year, earlier, we issued the contract award to Deloitte. And the next month, we were all meeting in our Klamath room with the water boards doing our project kickoff. So 20 months from funding to actual project kickoff with major system implementers, really, really fast for state government. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about main functions here, and I'm going to hand this off to Jeff Parks, our product owner. Jeff really is the one that's going to oversee these granular aspects of the project, and we'll be participating in the UAG moving forward as we begin to gather details on these. So Jeff, take it away.
And this is where my title kind of makes sense, because Upward as a whole is actually bigger than this distinct data system we're building. Upward is the legacy piece of making sure the data governance is on top of this. But at the core here is what is replacing eRIMS, and it's what we're calling CalWaters, the California Water Accounting, Tracking, and Reporting System. And as Brent alluded to, my job is calling when the pieces of this built are done and working with Deloitte to actually get sign off on this new system. So what does this mean? What is Cal Water's going to be? It is complete replacement of ERIMS and RMS plus more. And in fact, important piece of this is we're not going to try to do a staged go live, meaning we're not going to try to bring some of the new functionality on while keeping ERIMS functional. We're going for a complete replacement, meaning, you know, we may take a little extra time to develop, but when it's ready, we are going to completely turn off ERIMS and RMS, bring all our data over, and everything will now be in Cal Waters instead. We're going to retain a legacy version of ERIMS for everyone to be able to go back and see what was there, but effectively Cal Waters will now be the system of record. What does this mean for most of you? User accounts. It may seem like a simple thing, but it's something we don't have in our current system. Most interactions, for those of you lucky enough to have submitted annual reporting, happens through not even what could be called a user account. There's not one place to look at all your records with us. Paperless forms, we already have them, but they're, you know, again, they live in these silos. So now everything's going to be centralized, including what will hopefully be much easier communication with the division with all this centralization through Salesforce, is that new central computer platform, which, just as a side note, if people haven't experienced Salesforce, it's a cloud computer system. So there's no application that anyone will have to install, both on the state side and on the public side. It's something that people can access from the web anywhere, like a lot of modern systems. And so a big part of this too is one place to log in to do any of the interactions with us that you may need to do. So no more separate annual reporting platform. It all lives in one thing. You can see all your water rights, your records. If you don't hold water rights, your searches of you know, things within our system, or your protests, complaints, any other interactions with us, all now live under one login. But there's a lot of big improvements for staff too. Cases and workflows seems like a simple thing, but it's some, you know, again, on the staff side, we don't have an ERIMS. We have most of our work that we do lives in ancillary things outside our database. And it's almost frustrating to call what Cal Waters is going to be a database, because it is a database at its core, but it's really a work management system on top of that. And this will give staff a place to actually document things like workflows. So, you know, things that live in paper right now or live in spreadsheets now can be centralized. Again, centralized is a word I use a lot in our development, because so much of what we do in the division is spread out in individual processes that vary by individual units. And that really hurts us in knowledge retention, aside from data retention. And now we can actually have a place where these things are centralized, you know, or things live in continuity. Import of data directly from paper forms, again, something that sounds, or paperless forms, that sounds like something that we should have now, because we have paperless forms now, but a lot of the data you input in our electronic forms ends up living in a spreadsheet, because we don't even have a place to put it in ERIMS. Improved data visualizations, it's something that is going to be helpful for both staff and for the public, because this is something that will be universal. Not only will we be able to create these based on our improved and cleaner data, but we'll be able to push it to the public side much easier. We've already talked about the electronic documents, but it's going to be a huge win for us to have all our documents digitized. As frustrating, as inequitable as it is for people to have to come to Sacramento to view water right records, it's also just as time consuming, especially for things like drought management or other climate emergencies that we have to act quickly on. When our data lives in paper, it's hard to act quickly. Improve public health, you know, again, this centralization will give one place for things like complaints, protests, everything to live now in one easily referenceable location. And I maybe understated the geospatial, the GIS enhancements. We're hoping to have GIS be a core to our data and all our forms, so that the water right holders and the public in general, when interacting with us through a new system, should be able to plot what they're doing and where they're doing it easily and quickly using our forms in a GIS format. Next slide, please.
Let me hop in real quick
Yeah.
right on that one. I just want to underline a couple of things. I cannot state enough how important the geospatial aspect of water rights data are. Water is a physical resource that moves through space and time. This means GIS is critical. So the future system will have much more advanced geospatial user interfaces for the reporter to do things like plot their point of diversion and their place of use, things that I think a lot of folks would assume would be part of a water rights system. But because of what Jeff said earlier, our original system was sort of forked from a billing system. We really missed out on all that geospatial capability, and it hurt us because it was now very difficult to figure out where our water rights data exist in space and time. So that is critical. And I also just want to say for scale here, these are the bullets we put together for our initial UAG meeting. There are hundreds, I believe, approaching 1,000 user stories that we're currently working on. And we are talking hundreds of new functions. These are just the big ones we wanted to talk about. And you will all see the functions come to life as we hold subsequent UAG meetings and look at this system together. So.
And I know data is very important for a lot of people here. A part of what we're doing underneath all this is completely rebuilding the data model supporting what we do. And it's a big lift, but it's important because we're trying to start the new system as cleanly as possible. Importing our legacy data is very interesting and going to be a challenge, and there's going to be a lot of flags on all the data that's imported from our old system. But any data that comes into the new system will have automatic data validations and business rule validations on top of them. So that's the quality of our data will improve significantly. Realistically, that means it's going to be a few years before we have measurable data to use from our new system, but we got to start somewhere, and it's time to rip off the Band-Aid there. So where are we at and what's the timeline? We're in phase one, and I'll show another timeline in just a second, but phase one started this spring. We had our kickoff in May. 3 months of that, those first 3 months were was called discovery, which was basically every day Deloitte talking with our core team and the division staff at large, largely or often all day, 5 days a week, just talking about what we do, how we do it, and going through each and every unit and section and process in the division. And Deloitte took that and started developing business workflows and making a logical grouping of how this new system is going to be built to support all those things. We just started, the actual build a couple months ago, and I'll show more of that in just a second. But where we're headed, so that's for the rest of this year into spring of next year. Phase two is really, taking what is built in phase one, the core, getting all our core modules and our forms and our intake put together, and then building out all the corners, making both the staff side and the water right holder and public sides make sense, doing the checks for things like language and usability. And this is where we imagine you all, this user advisory group, starting to actually get hands-on with this project, and hopefully giving us some real feedback. But we'll also be doing major testing on our own side to make sure that there's no bugs, leading to us going live in early to mid 2025. And as I said, we're looking for a complete cutover, but it won't be the end either. It will be a working, functioning system, but we still have Deloitte and the other contractors on hand for ongoing maintenance, but also for potential enhancements as we get used to this new system and see where it can go. And something to highlight here is one of the pieces I repeat almost daily to Deloitte is this new product. It needs to be based on our experiences with eRIMS. It needs to be expandable. It needs to be configurable by the division, not by a contractor, and it needs to be expandable. Next slide. And fair warning, this slide is it's more just to show both the intensity of what we're working on, and if you have experienced software development, this will give you a very clear idea of what we're doing. The yellow line is where we are today. We're just finishing a sprint, which, you know, this is part of agile software development, and which is the process we're using with Deloitte. We're about to hit our first UAT, user acceptance testing, in actually November, and that's an important point where we get our first testing of this system. So Will asked earlier, you know, where are we? Deloitte understands what we do and what we need, and they've actually been building for almost 3 to 4 months now. So the new system, if you looked at it right now, it's looking pretty rough because it's something that's very much in development, but we're just starting to get to the point where we're ready to get our hands on it. And the green line to the right is where the next advisory group meeting is. It will have gone through most of the development of phase 1 and substantial testing by then. So we're hoping to actually demo real product to you at the next advisory group meeting. And then I've got some fun pictures to show in the next slide. This is our current system. If anyone has looked through it, this is the main public page you reach trying to search our records. And then the next slide is our detailed water rights search. And that's about all you get. If most of you are trying to look at our data right now, you get searches like this, and some general canned reporting, and not much else. So I've got a couple mock-ups just to give a hint of where we're headed. So next slide. This is what people will see when they log into the new system. This is what when I say user accounts, this is what it'll look like when you log in as a water right holder to your new account, or not even as a water right holder, maybe as an interested party. The division will now be actually to send notifications to you, or to let you know when things are due, or flag things directly to you, which is it's hard to state how exciting that is from a staff perspective of being able to interact easier with water right holders and interested parties to the division. Next slide. Being able to have cleaner and quicker ways to both organize how you can interact with us, but also to search these things through your own user account. And next slide. Being able to see what water rights you actually hold with us in one place. I mean, it's something that seems so common sense, but it doesn't exist in any usable way with our current systems. So, these seem like very simple mock-ups of what's coming, but it represents a huge improvement in both our data and the usability, both for staff and for the public. And that's all I had for
one thing. Could we back up to the detailed timeline? I just want to point something out here. So today we're at the yellow line right there, and in 6 months we'll be at the green, next advisory group. This is just the phase 1 timeline, and you'll see right there where the star is, phase 1 demo. That's when we expect a really strong demonstration. It'll be slightly after the next advisory group meeting, but we will be demoing stuff at the next advisory group meeting. And all this to say, there's another one of these timelines that's coming after this, and we'll show you that at the next UAG meeting where we move towards phase 2. So I just want to be clear, we're not going live like in 24. There's a whole nother year here that's not shown. So we'll get to that one next UAG meeting. Great. Also, next slide. This is just fun for historical. Actually, back up a couple. I'm looking for the one where it showed our ERIM system because there's something fascinating on the slide. Okay, right here. Notice in the upper left-hand corner, it says SWRCB. If you know about the water boards, that's our water quality data system. So what happened, just for historical knowledge, is the new ERIM system that we developed for billing basically was a derivative of our water quality system, the SWRCB system. So for those around water data a lot, that's an interesting little lineage between the two systems. And it's also a sign that ERIMS probably was set off on a bad foot because SWRCB was not designed for water rights. So just kind of completing that historical lineage there. Great. Thank you, Jen. Let's head to a little transition slide here. So we've been speaking a lot and it's time to hear from the UAG. So we have one question in the chat that I'll get to shortly. And then we're going to head into the actual exercise of collecting some feedback from you guys. And so we'll ask you to get out your cell phones and get ready because you're going to submit data in a survey form to us using your cell phone. And then after that, we're going to head into what's called a Jamboard exercise. Now, on the original solicitation we sent out, we were talking about using Mira. It was too complicated. Basically, we just figured that let's keep it simple. So we're going to do a Jamboard exercise where we write stuff down on a little Post-it note and we contribute ideas just to the advisory group. And it'll make more sense once we're doing it. But that's where we're heading. And in the meantime, let me get to the question in the chat from Mr. Nagel. Says, if Cal Waters is the IT upgrade for ERIMS under Upward, what are the other water sources expected to be integrated into Upward? Is DWR data going to integrate into Upward? That's a fantastic question. So the primary, and I'm going to let Jeff actually give you the details, but the primary focus of the Cal Waters system is water rights reporters. Now, DWR has some things to do with water rights, but I don't think that's what the question is. I think what the spirit may be is, are you going to integrate CMIS data? Are you going to integrate other external data sources? And the answer is yes, in some cases where it relates directly to water rights. For example, we will be bringing in telemetric gauging information from the United States Geological Survey, just to give us some sort of reference of what is in system at a certain gauge location, just so rights holders kind of have an easier path to that information. Also, there's other systems we're looking at integrating with, like OpenET. It's a system that is developed by Environmental Defense Fund and NASA that helps us calculate crop evapotranspiration at the field level. And that could be really useful for many different aspects of the build. So there will be some integration. Jeff, do you have additional detail?
Yeah, so one of the modules we've asked Deloitte to build into Cal Waters is a supply and demand assessment piece. And as you pointed out, or buried in what you pointed out is water rights is only the demand side. We don't monitor or own the supply side data. So one of the pieces that Deloitte is working on is how to integrate things like USGS or CDEC data from gauges, but the other things we use in supply demand assessments, so meteorological data, modeling data, and there's going to be use of APIs and other connections to pull in those data into the new system. I don't want to promise it'll be a one-stop shop for our supply and demand assessment, but we have asked for them to show us how to integrate supply side data from outside sources outside the division, since that's not data that we really maintain. And that's something that's coming. That's a phase 2. So that's a next year thing. It's nothing that we'll be able to show this year, but next year and moving into closer to 2025, hopefully we'll be able to show you exactly how we'll be pulling in those outside data sources.
That's a great segue for the purpose of this group, because if anybody in the Upward Advisory Group thinks like, man, it would really be helpful if you were to integrate this particular data set for my needs, when we get to our final interactive exercise, that's what we want to hear. What can help you? What would help you in terms of data integration? So thank you for that question, Mr. Nagel. All right, anybody else? Any other questions? I think I just saw another. Let's see. Patty, in the consideration of the OpenET, would other type of data be given the opportunity to be considered? So with the way these software developments go, it's extremely expensive to integrate any given system. And once you integrate it, you end up with another data dependency. So my answer is not the minimum viable product. The initial product that we develop, we're trying to keep it, it's obviously robust, but we're trying to keep it simple. If you think that you could benefit from us integrating a different data source, when we get to the final exercise, that's what we want to see. Put it in there. What would you like us to consider integrating? And that's exactly what we'll do. We'll take your feedback and we'll consider it and take a look at what those costs and benefit to the state would be.
So can I chime in?
Sure.
And I appreciate the opportunity. The reason for the question is the OpenET has been explored extensively here in the Kern Subbasin and in most of the valley. And we have found that the ground truthing, because there's not as much equipment on the ground to actually validate the data as it has already been done, for example, with Land IQ, and I do believe the state and DWR uses Land IQ as well in some of their projects. So I'm just kind of wanting to see that, because from our perspective, I'm looking from accuracy. How accurate is the data? And I think that's what you're trying to find out as well, is how accurate can it be? And what we have found out from OpenET, because there's not a lot of equipment on the ground, the data is not as validated.
Sure.
And it's important to recognize here that all of these data sources are tools, and they're not meant to be end all sources of truth. And because I've heard a lot of the conversations in OpenET. It's something just for validation. It's not something that I think we'd ever use for automatic compliance.
That's right.
It's just a tool to help aid us. And like you said, there's probably a lot of other tools. So that's where it'd help to know what those other tools you'd like us to consider are.
Spot on, Jeff. Yeah. So and I totally appreciate. I actually have an expert background in evapotranspiration. Been in the game for some years, and totally hear you, Patty. That's that trade-off. So from a state perspective, OpenET might be less accurate, but it is consistent throughout the state, and we can ensure if we create a dependency on it, it's going to be there for us. I'm not to say that we can't use other data sources as well, but just from a systems development perspective, OpenET just made more sense from that perspective of being has already active open APIs and things like that. So, but please, when we get to the exercise, let's comment more on that. We want to capture it. And in the exercise we're about to get to, this is how we are memorializing a lot of the feedback from the UAG. So go at it, let us know wrong answers, and the more you say, the better, basically. So with that, I believe we're ready to move to our first digital.
With a couple hands, if you want to.
Oh, there's more hands. Ivy, sorry.
I will be quick, I promise. Thank you so much for the presentation, Brent and Jeff and others. On your kind of macro goals slide, one bullet said establish data governance, and there was a picture of the state capitol. Can you just expand a little on that? Are you talking about legislation that you're thinking of, or what can you share on that bullet?
Yeah, the icon's meant to represent governance, not necessarily legislation. That's a good observation. No. Okay, so the Upward project is just within the Division of Water Rights. We're not in this group or in the project touching legislation or policy or anything like that. We're staying strictly to the data, strictly to the IT systems. And the governance piece is just a new responsibility for the Division of Water Rights that needs to be taken seriously, memorialized, invested in, and then kept permanently. So that was the point of that bullet.
Thank you.
We should change that bullet icon, by the way. So Great. Okay. All right. So Jen, think we're ready for an exercise here?
Yeah, if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and try to get some feedback from you guys. Again, my name is Jennifer Hernandez. Talked to most of you about coordinating this meeting today. So the first activity we're going to do is going to be on the Mentimeter platform. So if everybody has their cell phones handy, we will have a QR code to follow. Let me.
We'll be switching between screens here a
Sorry,
little
yeah.
bit. So
My apologies. All right, so you guys should see the QR code here. You can use the camera to take a picture. If you'd rather join in on a other device, you can go to menti.com and enter in this code, and it'll bring you to our activities for this today. And once you get there, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. It just gives me a count of who's made it and if we got to hang out for anybody else to join. All right, so we're about 17 so far. And we have, all right, we're climbing. I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next slide. You'll still see the menti.com and the code at the top of the activity. So the first one, what we're gonna do is you should see a map popping up on your screen now. And we just wanna kind of see where everybody's joining us in from today. Just move the dot to the region or area you're from. It's a very big dot, so we won't know exactly where you're at, and hit submit once you go ahead and get that little dot to where you are at. Nice. All right, so we are pretty spread out through the state here. So it's great to see in our representation for this project. So the next slide we're going to go into is this is where we want your feedback. We want your honesty. We've heard you guys tell us that you've struggled and ran into some obstacles dealing with our platforms. So let us know, and that's going to help us to improve the system to better serve you guys. This slide, we want to ask you about ease of reporting. And if anybody here who has not reported to our system, think of anybody who has, or if you've heard about reporting with our system, you're going to slide it each line to you strongly agree or strongly disagree on these concepts and submit. The current reporting system is easy to access. The instructions and requirements for reporting are clear. There are very few system errors when reporting, and the current system is user-friendly. Again, be honest and let us know your true experience.
And if you have no idea, it's okay if you don't want to respond. If you have no idea what the question means, we're just looking for general feedback.
Yep, great. So yeah, we aren't scoring too good here, guys, and that is what made Upward come to fruition these days. And we are looking to improve those scores.
Yeah.
Next, we want to ask you about the data quality. So it sounds like a lot of people on this call are aware of the data quality issues. You either strongly agree or disagree with the current water rights data meeting your needs. The ability you're submitting water rights data being easy, water rights data being reliable and trustworthy, and inconsistencies or gaps in the data of water right. In the water rights data, my apologies. And
yeah.
So,
cool.
Yep, we're still not scoring great, and that's what we were anticipating. So
yeah,
thank you for
don't
your
be nice.
honesty. No worry about hurting our feelings. We want this feedback, and we want. Great. And so we'll move on to the next slide. We have most people answering.
Couple more here, yeah.
We got data access now. So when you think of accessing the data from the water rights system, what has been your experience? Accessing the physical water right records is convenient. The technology used to access water rights data is sufficient for your needs. The data search and access process is transparent and well communicated. And the water right data is easily searched or queried. Yep, even worse scores on this, and that's great to hear.
Not even breaking out of the ones.
Nope. Awesome. Yep. So is probably our lowest scoring, and we were anticipating this, so we are working on it, and hopefully we can improve these numbers moving forward. The next slide I want to ask you about is the interaction you've had with the division in one way, form, or another. That you strongly agree or disagree. The division staff are easy to find and contact. Division staff resolve issues and answer questions in a timely manner. Division staff are knowledgeable about California water rights. Most questions or concerns are quickly answered using the division's webpage.
And this one's lending itself to us improving our business processes internally, the human processes, along with the IT processes, and looking at ways our new system can help us improve interaction with the public and the reporters.
Yeah, awesome. So we did a little better here in this section, but there's definitely still room for improvement. Our job as government employees are to serve the people of California, and if we aren't excelling in this, then we definitely need to improve and work on that. So thank you very much for your honest feedback. It's very valuable to us. The next section will be a ranking activity. It'll be the same 4 concepts that I asked you specific questions about, but I want to know what is most important to you as this advisory group member. You're going to take those concepts, just click on it, and it'll move up to the top. You'll put them in the order that is important to your objectives, what you do with water rights. You can move any of the concepts up or down. Once they're in that list, there should be a little gray arrow to the right of that. And
we had a question come in from Mr. Van Camp. Great question. How is Upward going to help us coordinate the division itself internally? That's just a wonderful question. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to have an electronic content management system. And basically that's going to house the division documents that are currently stored all over SharePoint. Certain cloud drives are just sort of fragmented and sort of unconsolidated. We're also going to be developing business process workflows that'll be digital for the entire division. So for example, when I need to get a memo signed by Eric, I can draft the memo and it goes to Eric's work queue and speeds up that whole approval and authorization process for like document control. And there's a lot more to this, but we did take that into account. Jeff, did you have thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is transparency and centralization. Our current system doesn't give us a place to interact with those other units or to even make notes about our own data that live and are able to be viewed by other division staff. So it's really hard to quickly and easily show what we're doing from one unit to the other. Things live in spreadsheets that live with individual units. Even things like the work steps to go through a process. You know, a lot of our processes span years, if not decades. And so, you know, it changes staff often and probably changes management of the unit that controls those processes. So those workflows are not tracked of who did what and when. And that's going to be an explicit piece of the new system, is having workflows that you can see exactly who did what when, and what those steps are in the system. So, you know, all these things that live in, you know, spreadsheets and Word documents and a lot of times still on paper, you know, what we call route slips, you know, things that we used to hand from person to person with files. Those things will now live in electronic format that will be visible to the entire division.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I see we also have a comment from Mr. Lowe, just real quick. what I think Glenn is saying in the comment is greater focus on data insights. So we're talking about data quality and access, but what about those derivative data sets, charts, graphs, things like that we could provide out almost as a digital service, I believe, to the reporters and the public? And noted, Mr. Lowe. And when we hit the next exercise, what are some maybe visualizations or analyses that you might be looking for? Because if we know where you might be focused, we can help with our data model and sort of tooling inside the system to meet those needs. So thank you for that comment. It's a great point there.
Yep.
I think we're switching gears here a little bit. So we did a phone exercise, and now we're going to switch to a mainly computer exercise. And I think how this is going to work is Craig Altair is going to put a link in the chat like magic.
Yeah.
So when you click on that link, you should be able to get to the Jamboard, and we're going to let folks take a minute to get in there. You'll be called like Anonymous Armadillo and stuff like that. That's when you know you're there. And we'll take a look, and once we're all there, we'll start that final exercise of collecting feedback from the UAG. I need to click it too.
Right, so let's go.
All right, looks like we have 21 viewers, 22. All right, looks like we're already in there.
All right, so I'm going to do a quick demo for you guys on doing the little Jamboard. Over here on the left side, you should see a toolbar. You want to click on that sticky note. It should pop up, and you'll type in your feedback, and this is all anonymous. So we are sticking to the 4 sections that we were asking specific questions about before, but now we want to hear, what did we miss? What can we add? Where do we need to add more focus? In your opinion, you'll hit save, and the sticky note will pop up there, and you can move them around and edit them if anything changed. So at this time, we are asking, how can we make reporting easier for you?
And in the example, when you're making your sticky note, once you hit save, it puts that note down on the board, but it gives you a chance to put in your next note, so you never need to leave that little interface if you don't want to. So I know that tripped me up the first time I did it, but yeah, so let's hop in there, start making some stickies and scooting them around.
And we appreciate your honesty, and no need to protect our feelings.
And you'll see me nod my head as I go, yep, we need to do that. Yep.
And I'm going to be scooting them down into a sort of an organized fashion. Yeah, better UI, most definitely.
And so as people are typing, I can commentate a little, auto-populating information is a big piece of what we're looking to do to stop asking information that we should already know. In the same vein, trying to only show what is relevant to what you're reporting on. Right now, we kind of throw everything in there because we don't have the data to support individualized reporting. So a goal of our reporting is to make you only see what you need to see on your reports. And for folks perhaps like PG&E, spreadsheet downloads and ways to bulk upload information, that's something that's on our list of solutioning out the best way to enable bulk upload of data to us while still maintaining the quality of what's needed.
Sanity checks to ensure data is high quality. Yes, yes. We're gonna need another Jamboard.
No, this is great. We were hoping.
Great, yeah. Great. Yeah, this automatic checks on numbers that mix up gallons and acre feet is actually really simple to do technically, but we don't have it in our eRIMS RMS system, and it results in some wild water values getting submitted to us. I think I recall one time we had more water than was in California reported by one user because they mixed up the units. So it goes to show how important that front-end quality assurance is in these IT systems. And go metric. Go metric. We actually had a conversation about that, about what base units should be. Go metric. Separate consumptive use from non-consumptive use, right? Like hydroelectric, that may not, it doesn't necessarily use the water, it goes through the system back into system. So that's kind of a different way of looking at water accounting, to the name water accounting. Reporting
and as a preview, that's a data field tag we're working on for all our purposes of use, our beneficial purposes of use, is to explicitly tag whether they're consumptive or not, so that we can, when we're doing water accounting, we can make that much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And I did see a comment on the contact information change, which another Easter egg, you guys will be able to do that yourself.
Yeah. It's another one of those like technically simple, but not available now, and we see the effect of that. Yeah, provide templates. Excellent, excellent.
This is awesome, guys.
Yeah, great work.
All right, looks like our comments are, we're still getting a few.
Yeah, still got them coming.
And
We'll
it'll
fit
still
them in
be
there.
open for a while.
Yeah, I'll get, so on the last slide, I'm going to explain that, well, I want you all to contribute as much as possible, but we're going to leave this board open for 24 hours in case you sleep on it and think of something tomorrow. So please contribute as much as possible now, but it'll be open for 24 hours after this. And we'll take a snapshot at the end of the meeting, and then we'll take a snapshot of the one in 24 hours just to make sure we capture
So
it.
there's not going to be another board for what I need out of the system as opposed to what
Yeah. This is the first. The next ones are about like data and stuff like that. And I think that might be where you're heading. Yeah.
Yep. Great. So if anybody wants to spend some more time here, you're more than welcome to. We're approaching time, so I'm going to move to the next frame.
So this one is about data quality itself. And I wouldn't be surprised if some in the UAG might not have a lot on this one, but I think some in the UAG might have a lot. So let's give it a shot. In the example we put here, it's just kind of a data quality improvement. I would like to see places of use in a GIS map. That can be something that could really improve data quality versus submitting places of use on a paper using a highlighter or something like that. So, great. Auto QA/QC of data. Yeah. So we refer to those as the front end validations that help prevent bad data from getting into the system in the first place, like don't type letters into your zip code field kind of thing. And there's also a lot of auto QA/QC we can do on the back end of the data, looking for anomalies, lapses or gaps in the data record, things like that. Ability to export multi-year customized reports for one or more rights. Awesome. Yes, that gets to the query part of this. And if you submit something in this board and we move to the next one and you think it might be more applicable there, do it again if you'd like. We'll see it no matter what. So don't worry too much about the categories, but could understand if that might happen. A lot of Santa Ynez rivers. Yeah. Yeah, no consistent nomenclature. We still don't know what to do with Dry Creek because there's 10,000 of them, but I think we could definitely control the nomenclature a little bit. Got to use the hydrologic unit code for the dry creeks. Yeah, align fields such as persistent identifiers with other reporting systems like the Safer Clearinghouse. So the Safer Clearinghouse relates to our division of drinking water. And what we are looking at doing is having an interoperability with the public water system ID, which is the unique value for public water systems, because some of our public systems have to report to the Division of Water Rights. And if we can link those two, we could do things like have the place of use for a municipality be the municipality's water system boundaries. And I think that makes total sense. So that's we're aiming at that. And if you have other ideas about anything specific feel free to add that too. If there's a specific unique ID you're thinking that is beyond the PWS ID or anything like that. Address rounding of data. Yes, go science. That's an important one. There can be a pretty big difference in 1 decimal place on an acre foot of water, for example. Right. Opportunity to link up several systems. We're going to be using some software called MuleSoft. It's an API tool that will sit within the system, and it's kind of like the glue that makes all the parts of the system interoperate. But it can also be used for easily, well, as easy as technology can make it, adapting to external systems versus having to go in and hard code all of that API stuff to help our systems integrate. So hopefully with the MuleSoft technology, we'll be able to help integrate other systems as needed. What visibility will my water right have with DRAT? Water availability models, great. I don't know, but that's an awesome thing that we need to think about. So DRAT is a sort of a, I think of it as like kind of like a supply and demand model, but it's hardcore like computer model, empirical. And right now, I think just for the minimum viable product of Upward, DRAT will sort of live outside of it, being formed by data that's collected within Cal Waters in the future once we start collecting it. And I think that's really going to guide the answer to that question, is what the visibility will be with DRAT specifically. Yeah, see, I'm missing the left-hand side. I've got to get a few from over here. Clear data definitions. Yeah, the current eRIMS RMS system is effectively not documented, meaning the definitions are wild. They're all over the place or non-existent. So part of the data governance thing we were talking about is that it's documenting the data definitions, and much more than that, just documenting the classic governance metadata that go along with data in general, including definitions. How does Division not have a published 30-day rule system? Reporters are forced to develop their own calculation systems, which may be inconsistent. I'm not certain what that is asking. I'm going to guess it has to do, if anybody would like to come off mute and clarify it, that's fine. But I'll guess this means some calculations that result in the data that we collect are done by the individual. Sometimes I refer to these as estimations. Typically, I've seen lots of different estimations like bucket and stopwatch, and there's like a lot of different ways of like calculating how much water you're using. I think this is getting to that.
Wait, was this a 30-day rule one?
Yeah. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, that has to do with if it's storage or not.
Oh. Okay, we'll look into that one. I see now. Thank you, Jeff.
If it's re-regulation versus actual storage, and
right.
but please tell me if I framed it wrong.
Yeah.
No, that's correct. I recently inquired if State Board has a standard protocol or calculation method for applying 30-day rule, but they don't, and I think it is something that would be worth incorporating into the new reporting system.
I got you. You're saying we should get one of these. Got it. Thank you, Pat. Okay.
And just a note, I know that it's hard for larger systems. A lot of times, the matchup with annual reporting is done in arrears. It's not done, as on an ongoing basis. It's more, calculated at the end of the year or the end of the reporting cycle to figure out, especially for large systems like PG&E. So I know that becomes a tough issue on what is recorded where and what does it mean.
Mm-hmm. I'll call out address overlapping water rights with shared points of diversion. Yeah, that's a problem. That's at the heart of our new data model as well. So we will be able to decouple rights from the POD. Another good one on SB 88, align time steps of data reported within forms to be consistent with SB 88 requirements. Yeah, depending on how much water you take, you'll have different SB 88 requirements that have different time steps. And there's a lot of information we could be providing to the reporter to help out with that, or even better, have the system align it. That's a great comment. We're slowing down a little bit. I think we've worn this one out. Got another one coming in here.
Yeah. All right. If anybody wants to stick around on this board and has more comments, feel free. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next frame. Oh, it looks like you guys are already there.
Yeah, this is
all right.
Proactive group. Yeah.
What are some ways we can improve access to our data?
APIs. Yes, yes, yes. Imagine that when we have our new data model, we've collected a few years of data. And if you're into Python or any of the programming languages, you can just hit our API. You don't have to go to a website and do it. Can automate it. Exactly where we're heading. Yep.
And for the sake of time, do you maybe want to just show the last question real quick, since
Sure,
so people can continue to add stuff. So
this one's about us in the division, just ways we can improve our customer service to you. And so less focused on the data, I suppose, but more about us. Is there anything we can do? Great, great. Let's back up to 3 and just take a look at it real quick. Just get a feel for the comments. So we got 2 APIs. I want to see, oh, that was our example. Publish the data as soon as it is reported. These data could be marked as provisional to address any issues with QA/QC. Yeah, exactly like the USGS does when they take their stream gauging data and it's provisional before they vet it and bring it to truly published data.
yeah, we're stream tracing. We're talking with the SRI about a next version of our stream tracing integrated with our system. And I can't promise that we'll have a live depletion type tool, but if anyone has seen some of Australia's stream monitoring systems, that's our future goal, to have something that you can look at any stream in the state, and based on what we know on demand and supply, be able to get at least a sense of what is available, or what is claimed, or what portion of streams are claimed by who. So it can't promise that's going to be part of the initial system, but it is definitely something we're looking at as our long-term goal to have our data support.
Yeah, we came across some fascinating sort of realizations with stream tracing as we were working on the discovery aspect of Cal Waters. And the stream tracing works great if you have topography and the water is going from high to low. But the second you hit the major central valley where the canals are basically flat and can go both ways, stream tracing breaks down a little bit. So we're working on ways that we can make it valuable where it is valuable, and then maybe alternative methods for those areas where stream tracing kind of just ends up highlighting 2 million acres of something or something like that.
I know we have a representative from Santa Rosa Flatlands. I can tell you modeling there is not fun.
Yeah. We got a question from Mr. Van Camp.
Water unavailability methodology and tool that's been used in the most recent droughts for curtailing of water rights.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mentioned supply and demand analysis. Part of what, some of the related modules we've asked for them to build is water availability and water unavailability. And I know they're kind of two similar sides to of a coin, but they have nuances, and we're looking at how to codify things like the water unavailability methodology into the system so that we're able to apply things like, I don't want to say live, but near live transparency, similar to what we're saying, being able to look at a stream and based on past demand data, make an estimate quickly on what is available in times of unavailability. Again, I can't promise it'll be part of the initial system, but it is something that we're working towards. And an example too of, we QA/QC a lot, we've QA/QC'd a lot of data, but that clean data has nowhere to go in our current system. And so part of our new solution too is how do we clearly mark clean data in the new system so that it can be pulled directly into things like water unavailability analysis.
Yeah, we saw that echoed in the most recent post-it here. Water rights holders need to be able to identify water supply availability for individual water rights in real time. Absolutely. I think for me, that's an end game vision right there. That is something that we can work toward and keep working toward it till it's achievable. One of the things about that is that so many other institutions are responsible for the supply side data. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to have an upward advisory group that's just for the government and is just for that, like looking at our systems interoperability, data interoperability, and things like that, trying to head that direction with the other institutions, both federal and state, that have that supply information that can make that a reality.
And I saw your comment, Will, that we've asked them to be able to create forms within the system that have data from those forms go back directly into the system. So no more survey wizard, no more info order standalones. We agree that that's part of what we asked for in this new system, is that informational orders and supplementary ad hoc type things that we want to ask all need to come and again be centralized into the new system and the data there.
Brent, this is Mark Van Camp. I just want to emphasize you used the words real time. And when we're implementing curtailments, I think we need to be careful in that. In a system like the Bay Delta system, where it takes 5 days of travel time from Shasta down to the Delta, and we have tidal influence in the Delta. So I don't want to set the sights too high when you say real time.
No, that's why I caveated said near real time, which even that, we need to be careful what that means, because sometimes it's a day old, sometimes it's a week old, as you said. So we need to be very clear what that means. I think it's because I'm comparing it to what we use now, which is often our demand data, which is often a year old. So anything that can improve from the time scale of already a year old will be helpful to us.
I see a shout out to GeoConnects there in one of them. It's kind of another cool kind of just Easter egg or fun fact. I caught on to the GeoConnects movement, which is basically, you can think of it as a persistent identifier for water features anywhere, basically nationwide or in the world, that the persistent identifier stays with that water feature. And this is really important because we develop our systems and water control policies and mechanisms state by state, but water doesn't care. Like, water moves across state boundaries and different. So having some sort of a national unique ID would be the way to go. And the Easter egg is we threw it into that original bidders conference where we met with the software developers and tested them out, and they built little mini systems. We actually threw GeoConnects in there to see what they would do, and they gave it a scout's effort, but GeoConnects was a little bit new in its technological evolution. So we have our eye on it, though. We definitely need to follow the persistent identification, especially if a national identification index is ever mandated or something like that.
I see the whitewater one in there. I worked in FERC relicensing for a long time and know about those mandated whitewater releases, and those are important for boaters, so they know when to run out and take a day off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a website, I believe it was called Dreamflows, which actually tracks, it's like our go-to for looking at statewide water in time. Yeah.
It was always fun using NGO derived data to run it. It uses our operational data.
Great. Okay, well, this one seems to be slowing down a bit. Let's head to the fourth board. Oh, good. All right. Yeah, clear definitions and guidebooks. Yes, yes. That's another thing the data governance team will be doing as the system goes live, is producing all the documentation that's necessary for especially data experts to know what they're using is trustworthy, and to help a lot of our data communities access our data without having to scramble around Googling, just giving that clear, concise information. Ooh, open office hours.
Yeah, and the dedicated issue or region support staff. I mean, anybody familiar with phone duty, which is what our kind of customer service system is now. We're really looking at ways to be able to improve that and have our new system support quickly reaching, you know, the right staff in any given area, and hopefully being able to sort through questions much more intelligently. I don't know if I want to say, you know, using AI, but at least using something that can quickly and intelligently, you know, look at the questions being asked and get you at least close to the right person without having to physically call us or wait for an email response.
Would not a learning machine do that?
You know, there's an AI tool nested within Salesforce. We haven't looked at exactly how it's used yet, but we definitely have it available, as well as a lot of customer service features that we don't currently have, like live chat and other kind of options that we could, you know, fold into the system that could make interacting with us hopefully faster and easier.
Yeah, I expect call volumes to decrease to the division a lot, because the only way to get answers some cases is calling us, and the new system is going to help provide different ways to get to those answers. And of course, we'll always receive calls and be available, but when it's your only way to do it, that's just not fair to the reporters and the public. So, and we're not going to put a cheesy chat bot, just in case you don't like those sorts of things. Yeah.
I want a talking paperclip, please.
Yeah, Clippy. Yeah.
And, you know, we've recognized internally that a lot of the final half of 2024 will be standard operating procedure land for us, documenting all the stuff that the system does, both for us internally and for public users, because, you know, all of us could benefit from having things actually written down of what our processes and procedures are. And now's the time to do it, now that we have a new system and are, I don't want to say clean slate, but, you know, it's near a clean slate, because we're, you know, one thing we're doing along with this is called business process reengineering. I don't think we really got a chance to hit that earlier, but it's an important thing that this is the time to really examine how we do what we do and to change it. And now's the time to change it. I know there's a lot of things that are nested in legislation that we can't necessarily change, but that doesn't mean the business processes around how we treat those things can't be improved and streamlined. And then let's write them down so that everyone, you know, both internally and externally can document and read and see that this is how we do it.
Heads up on upcoming deadlines. Yeah.
And that's where, if you saw in the mock-up, you know, being able to send notifications to users' accounts that deadlines are coming without you having to register for a what are now called a GovConnect, what used to be our Lyris system, having that be, you know, smart enough to know when it affects you based on what water rights you hold, that, you know, either deadlines or other things related to you are coming.
Yeah, and staff being more responsive to phone calls. Yeah, great comment. COVID did affect that. We went from an in-office phone duty to an out-of-office phone duty, but we can definitely improve our responsiveness. And I'm wondering if, like, the barring reduction in potential phone calls, if the system can help improve that pace of response. I'm just thinking about metrics to look at moving forward to show that we're improving there.
So one thing that's interesting is Salesforce is at its heart a customer relation tool, and it's actually partially a marketing tool, and there is a government side of it that's not, kind of tones down that piece of it. But because of that, there's a lot of what you'd call help tickets. So, when people ask for help from us, it's documented in the system. We can see clearly when people ask for help and how long it's taking us to respond. So we can start getting much better metrics on how long it's taking us to respond to people and documenting within the system when we responded. That's something we have a really tough time, and it's very ad hoc or lives in one-off systems, if at all, in our current processes, but should be much easier to control using the Salesforce system.
Forecasting potential legislative changes that will challenge any new tool. Yeah, we've thought about that, but there's also an sort of similar, equal, but opposite, which is legislative changes that make us have to do a bunch of new stuff. So it kind of goes both ways. And I haven't seen any indicators of anything, but that might challenge the tool, but we are like keeping an eye out for that. I think the way that data and technology is going, just kind of globally, empowering the system is one thing. And then another one is if legislation comes out that says maybe one part of the system needs to be modified or changed in order to meet some new regulation. And at the heart of the Salesforce platform is customizability. So we tried as hard as we could to make sure that whatever we build as a minimum viable product has the ability to be changed in whatever way we need to change it as things like rules change, because it's an inevitable reality of state government.
Administrative Hearing Office. So we've talked with both AHO and Office of Enforcement, and this tool is explicitly for Division of Water Rights, but there are offices that are tightly linked with us, like Office of Enforcement, Administrative Hearings, and the Delta Water Master's Office, and they will have access to the system and have their own way of using the data and the especially for AHO, the records and the what will hopefully be a streamlined administrative record development process within the electronic content management system.
Noting time, and we're seeing the notes slow down a little bit. I'd like to give us some time for general questions and discussion. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Like I said, this is not the last opportunity. We'll keep it open for 24 hours if more stuff wants to come in. And of course, we'll be meeting again and collecting more feedback in 6 months. Great.
Just a note too, I'd suggest maybe we email out that link so people can continue to add thoughts to those boards. Because we do want to
send an email after this meeting, so you guys will have access for 24 hours, and just ask you not to remove anybody's comments because everybody's an editor.
Yeah.
We really, really want to capture all of it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for the feedback. It definitely helps in this project.
Add, no delete. Yeah, great. Okay, so I just wanted to open it up and give UAG some chance to talk in our last 10 minutes. If there's any topics of concern, something maybe that we broached during our exercise, curiosity about the future, anything like that, any inspired thoughts in the advisory group? How we doing? Is this the kind of thing you want to see? Is this... See a hand up. Mr. Blumenshine.
I'm just Steve over here.
Steve.
So something I've been hearing about when I talk with economists, in the water world, for example, or people in the business world, I talk to so many different people, but one thing that's been coming up lately, which has been catching my attention, is the concept of information asymmetries. We know governments, markets, the UN, you name it, tribal, that's a pervasive thing. And what we hear from Joaquin and others, in state government is, equal access to information and opportunities and voices in the room for all. And to me, so many of these just repeatedly touch back on this information asymmetry issue that we all fall under to some degree, some more than others. And so is that some kind of thing that this group, this effort for Upward can, have at the top level? That's kind of what I kind of understood coming into it. Better access of information for all, for greater equity and representation. Are those kinds of themes that this group would touch on, you think?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'd like that to be a top line item just in this group. And you are clearly knowledgeable about this. So I'd love to hear more about this. If you have ideas on ways that we can improve our system. I know that right now the system we have is inequitable in the simple sense it's so difficult to use, siloed, and not extensible. So there will be implicit improvements towards that, but I want to focus on explicit improvements towards our new system.
So just if I may carry on with that, I'm much more familiar with the DWR kind of data, water access, things like that. And so in the Sigma world, which we run pretty deep into, using a bad pun, there's a lot of fear, trepidation, uncertainty, finger pointing, between GSA, many are in this room, and the water users. And how are you measuring my water? There was some discussion about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so those could be attributed under this category of information asymmetries. What information can I access and who has my information? Ask Google about that, right?
Mm-hmm. Great, taking notes.
Okay. My dog's actually knocking at the window. I have to go let her in.
All right, Steve. Thanks. And I know we had another hand, Pat.
Yeah, thanks. One thing I'll just throw out there for the group, and it's I guess a problem to be solved through this effort that I'm interested to see how it's approached, because it's something that I struggle with quite a bit, is how the data requirements and data submittal requirements of SB 88 will be reconciled within this Cal Water system. And I've participated in lots of state board division hearings and in meetings over the last few years, and it seems as if division staff is really struggling with how to grapple with all the data that's being received and the inconsistencies within it.
Yeah.
And so you have, and just to throw one out as an example, the Yuba Bear watershed that's operated by PG&E, and then also another cohabitant of the watershed. In places like that, where there's in excess of 30 reservoirs, across 4 watersheds, where water is commingled and rediverted and run through different power generation stations and delivered to different entities, we have internal spreadsheets where there's quite literally several hundred columns of water accounting done to parse out and color the water under the different water rights. And we can provide the data from the devices in the field that measure that, but it really doesn't mean anything just looking at the data from the devices, because it could be rediversion of previously stored water. It could be direct diversion. It could just be, some of it's going to consumptive use, some of it's going to non-consumptive use. And so you have these incredibly complex watersheds where, quite honestly, I don't know what the answer in how to tackle that is, but it's something that's exciting to think about, and I'm sure you're all giving lots of thought to. So.
You appreciate that, Pat. That's one that makes me sweat all the time. This is a very complex issue of reporting under Senate Bill 88 effectively. And we have about, I think the next UAG meeting will be able to show a little bit more towards that progress. But this is a problem that will take time to solve, and figuring this out. Absolutely.
And so I would just offer that if staff at any point want to see kind of our process internally within PG&E and water accounting and our 70 different devices within one watershed, I'm happy to meet with you on the side and walk you through it to see if that would be of any benefit for staff.
I have the line diagram for Yuba Bear right sitting in front of me.
It's gonna fix it all. Yeah. Yeah. So we have a dozen interested staff in talking with you, and thank you for that offer from PG&E. We will be in touch. We have a couple other hands up coming up on time here. I believe Steve.
Yeah, Pat had effectively my question. The complexities, these larger systems, just some of the background calculations that were done to get to just a number on a license is pretty sophisticated. I'm really interested to see how or if we're even able to capture that as you move forward. So I think you addressed it with Pat already.
And I'll second that with overlapping rights where water rights refer to other water rights, and
Yes.
there's some totals and overlapping, and they're not always additive. And there's a piece of this of trying to put our terms and conditions into a data format, and that's something we're looking at helping undo the spaghetti that is what you're describing.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I don't know if Glenn or John had their hand up first, but whoever unmutes first.
Go ahead, Glenn.
All right, he won. John won. Yeah.
Oh, I was good. I unmuted until Glenn. Go ahead. So you were talking about being able to take all the different information out of a developed water right and be able to access. Say, for example, I'm assuming this new tool will be able to look at what is potential instantaneous demand based upon all different rate of pools within a reach, or being able to look at potential instantaneous demand, or look at compared to historical instantaneous demand based upon what's being pooled. I mean, this type of data and this type of questions are important for the water management side, the determination of availability, being able to maintain other types of conditions that are placed on the river. And I was wondering, I'm assuming, I just want to make sure that this type of data is eventually is what will be available to users and managers.
Yeah, we're heading there. That's not something we'll be able to accomplish off the bat but with careful data models, collection of more robust data. That analysis is something that we will be aiming at. It's going to be a long road, sort of similar to the telemetry topic. This is a massive problem to untangle, and we're taking it on. So as we move through the UAG meetings, let's hear more about it. Let's keep the topic going.
And the demand data cleanliness is a big piece of that. So you talk about being able to compare to historic demand and use that to help inform instantaneous availability or demand type things. That's what's going to be hard, is our historic demand data is unclean. And hopefully we can clean some of it up, but realistically we'll need to build up a better grouping of new data using the new system. And while we're developing that ability to then switch over and look at instantaneous type assessments.
Thank you.
Mr. Lowe?
When you mentioned the upward vision, I think the quote was, data-driven decision-making is at the core.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard from some folks who report data to the state that it's a sore spot, that they really don't know how the data is going to be used and for what decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Are you planning to be more specific on what state level decisions are being informed by the better data that will result from upward?
Initially, we're looking at just catching up to the modern curve, but that is definitely something we can focus on. Thank you for that comment. I hadn't really thought that far, but I see what you're saying. I said we start with the end in mind from the beginning. What does that end look like? I think that's what you're saying. If we could articulate that, that's going to help possibly resolve some concern over the data that I'm submitting to the board. How's it being used? Is that fair? Okay.
And it's part of why I was talking about standard operating procedures. If you know exactly what we do as a standard operating procedure with annual reporting data, with other things, that could help add transparency to that. But it's going to be a big lift. It's not going to be an instantaneous thing, but as Brent said, we're part of a data governance team that, when this thing is built, our job goes on, and then ensuring that both the data and the things that support data, like standard operating procedures and other documentation, is robust and maintained and lives on along with this.
Thanks, Glenn. And for the closing rally, Beth.
Thank you. I just want to go back one topic, which was the demand data. And this is well beyond the intent or capacity, I'm sure, of this new vision. But when we were running the voluntary water sharing program, we actually asked water users, water right holders, to identify what their baseline demand was, and we did that by using 3 years worth of annual reporting on a monthly time step and averaged that out each month. But then we did a lot of verification to make sure that, you know, things hadn't changed, and it just made such a huge difference in the water management. And you know, we're doing it all grassroots, and you know, we don't have a water master or anything like that, but wouldn't that be such an ideal to reach someday, where you could go in and actually verify, like, even though this is your face value, this is what we use every month. Nothing's changed. This is our projection, right? My customers project what they'll use every year,
Sure.
on a monthly time step. So that's just my little wish list out there.
And to add to that, being able to match that up with type of water year it is, so having a data set for dry years, for wet years, for in between years, and being able to sync those up with demand. And so we could say, it's looking like this type of year, here's what we know people use in this type of year. No, I agree.
It's a
But
red
again,
year, it's a yellow year, it's a green year.
right, which points towards how we actually build that instantaneous, you know, red light, green light, or even just, you know, thermometer of water usage on any given stream. But again, it points to having reliable data built up, both demand and supply, but especially for us, the demand, and knowing that demand data is accurate, and then having length of time to cover multiple water year types to be able to have a realistic and averageable time set or data set. But yeah, we're on board and moving that way.
Thank you for the comment, Beth. We're a few minutes over here. It's because we're having a great conversation, but I do want to close it out so people can get on here. So let's hit the next slide real quick. Just a couple reminders and sort of a brief update. Another 24 hours on the Jamboard. We're going to send an email to you guys if you want to hop in there later and add some stuff. Feel free. It's going to get packed in there. You can just put the posties over each other. We'll get it cleaned up later. If you ever need anything, reach out to us at upward@waterboards.ca.gov. It's an inbox specific to this project, so we're monitoring it closely. We have 6 months to go till we meet again, and we hope to show you actual Upward product at that point. Yes, we will provide the presentation out in PDF form. Probably going to take us a couple days to get it out to y'all, but we'll get it out to this group. And I'm going to check chat and see if we have anything else here. Can I delete my Miro account? Well, don't do it yet. We might use it. It's a complicated interface, but not quite yet. Let's keep it. We might use it next round just because it's a little more robust than the Jamboard. But appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, that's the end of the meeting. Thank you all for your attendance. Reach out anytime, and we'll be in touch. Thank you all.